Hey everybody, this is Caitlin here and welcome to today's video for you today. My apologies for yesterday's video. Obviously, I only was able to record audio and whatnot because I was still pretty sick. I have kind of recovered a little bit. My throat is still feeling a little bit sore and whatnot, and I'm still like not totally 100%, but I'm feeling a lot better. So thank you for obviously the patience and whatnot with everything with me being a little bit ill and whatnot. But now that I'm feeling a little bit better, I feel like it was better that I could actually record this video for today, which is actually going to be another deck profile challenge for you all today. This time I am doing the challenge with uSpotGaming. If you remember those guys, they are pretty fun guys who make lots of deck profile videos and whatnot. And I set them the challenge of building a deck comprising solely of Spirit Resonators, with the exception of the new Almerius, who for some reason, even though she's the 6th stage of spirits, does not count as a spirit herself. So since she is a major mechanic obviously of that resonator style, she's included in the deck. She's the exception. So it can be any colour and whatnot, any ruler, and we said new frontiers or whatever just to make it easier, because there's no spirits and other clusters and whatnot. So that was the idea with it. I know they've already done their video of it, so I'll leave a link into that to the description below so you can check out their build for this. I believe they went the Lumia route with this, so they could flicker in and out spirits and get all their effects, whatever. My version of it, I'm calling Charlotte the Spirit Guru, who's essentially the new Charlotte, which I obviously got last week, if you remember, from the little box of cards that I got from Big Orbit and everything like that. So the idea for this deck is that Charlotte here is our Spirit Guru into a new lease of life, into a new way to play the card game or whatever, embracing the sanctity that is water and light. Some of the cards, whatever, that I have in this deck are kind of similar to some of the ones that they picked, obviously, because since the majority of spirits are either light or water, we tended to pick kind of a lot of the same resonators, although I think I've included a couple of different, maybe a couple of different spells or whatever, and just a couple of different things or whatever. So the idea with Charlotte here, obviously on her front side here, she is Charlotte, a determined girl. Her judgment is only 2, so 1 water and 1 void. She's obviously got the energize for 1, and she also has the ability where you can pay a blue and discard a card and rest target resonator, which is always quite handy. And then over on her flip side here, if the camera would like to focus on it slightly, we have Charlotte, the Mage of the Sacred Spirit. She is a 400/1200. She cannot be attacked. When this card enters your field, you draw X amount of cards, where X is 5 minus the number of cards in your hand. And whenever you draw a card, you gain 100 life, which is also very handy. And you can pay a water and 1 void to discard a card and return target resonator to its owner's hand. So she's kind of cool. And I went with her mainly for the ability to, 1, rest target resonators. And then obviously, if we're getting a little bit low in our cards, we can flip her over and get those cards back into the hand or whatever. And I think she is still a pretty good card to go with the idea I have for this deck. So first up, we are running 4 copies here of Silph, the Spirit of Wind here. And you'll be wondering, why are you running a green resonator when you have no way of producing green in your deck? And the deck is obviously blue and light. Well, my main reason for this is, the main use for this card in particular is just for discard. So mainly I want to use this card in order to use Charlotte's discard ability, where you pay a water, discard a card. Ideally want to discard this, and also it gives Almerius more options, obviously, for when she force rolls and brings in resonators. So even though we don't have green to play the Silph, it is mainly there for discard fodder. Other than that, it's a 1-drop green 2/2 spirit. Whenever another spirit enters a field, you put a 100/100 counter on this card. If we manage to cheat this in with Almerius' enter effect with the force, obviously, it is quite handy because we can put, obviously, this in first and then the other 2, and then put in the plus 100/100 counters or whatever. But other than that, it's mainly for discard, so that's why it's in there, to kind of help Charlotte's ability. Next up, we're running 4 copies of Willow the Wisp, which if you are running spirits or blue light or whatever and you're not running this card, I don't know what you're doing. Obviously, this is a 2-drop. It is a light and a blue. It's 100/100, a spirit with barrier. And whenever this card enters your field, you draw a card, which is very nice. And whenever this card is dealt damage, you gain that much life. So a little bit of draw power and a little bit of life gain, which is always nice. So we're running 4 of that one. Next up, we have another 2-drop spirit. We have Undine, who is the Spirit of Water. We're running 4 of this one, obviously. She is a 4/4. When this enters your field, you may return target resonator your opponent controls with total cost less than or equal to the number of water magic stones you control to its owner's hand. So basically, we're getting a lot of bounce out of this. So like, the Charlotte the Spirit Guru, she is telling you to embrace the embodiment of bounce. Like, you just need to let your spirit fly free with the bouncing and all that stuff, if that makes any sense. That's the idea. So we've got 4 of this. Next up, I believe we're running 3 copies, if I remember correctly from my list. I will have the deck list down below here, so maybe I might get some of the numbers wrong, but the correct numbers will be in the deck list down below, because I'm trying to remember off the top of my head what I decided between the numbers and whatnot for this deck. It is Spirit of Sacred Rains. It is a 3-drop. It is 1 light, 1 water, and 1 void, a 700/700. It doesn't really do anything by itself, but it has an inheritance ability, which is kind of what we want to use it more for, because the inheritance is quite good. You pay basically the same cost as what it was to play it, so a light, a water, and a void. Spirits you control cannot be destroyed until end of turn, which is very nice if we've got a steady amount of spirits in the field, and basically, say our opponent tries to do a board wipe or something like that, or just pick off a lot of our stuff, we can just say, yo, you know what, no, we're going to stop that. Protect all our little spirits. Sadly, it won't protect Almerius because she doesn't class as a spirit, but she is quite chunky in her own right, so we should be able to protect her. Next up, we have 2 copies of Nymph, the Envoy of Water. She doesn't really do much. She is a 4 cost, so she is one of the more expensive spirits to have. She's 1 water and 3 void. She's 700, 1200, which might not be entirely good, but obviously she's got flying, which, ironically enough, not many of the other spirits actually fly, so she is a flyer, so that's mainly why we've got her in, but we've only got her at 2, just because she's quite expensive, and she doesn't obviously have an enter ability or any kind of, like, other thing that she can do. So we just have 2 of this one. And then last but not least, we have the big girl herself, and I have this full art here, which you can't really appreciate because the lighting isn't too good here, but we have the full art Almerius, the Summoner of Spirits. She's no longer even got 6 Sage in her title, yet her Resonator type is 6 Sage. We are running 3 of her. She's a 5 cost. She's 2 light, 1 water, and 2 void. Yes, yeah. For a minute there, I was reading that wrong. I was just like, wait, what? Yeah, 2 light, 1 water, and 2 void. So she does a 5 cost. 1000, 1000. She does fly, which is also very, very nice. When this card enters your field, you can force for 1, put up to 3 Spirit Resonators whose combined total cost is X or less from your graveyard into your field, where X is the result of the roll. And whenever a Spirit enters your field, you gain 400 life. So we are running 3 of her. I would bump it up to 4, but again, she is such an expensive cost, and there's no way for us to ramp for Will in this deck. I believe water has no way to ramp for Will. Light has a way, but it's with Sol, and Sol is, I believe, not a spirit. I think he's like a swordsman or something like that, and it has to be like a mono windstone or whatever. So, not windstone, lightstone. I keep getting wind and light mixed up for some reason. But, yeah, so she's mainly the big finisher or whatever, considering that she is a flyer, and she's a good way of actually, like, storming her field with lots of spirits. I was actually contemplating, I don't know if you can see it here in the card, I was contemplating using this little girl or whatever, who is the Sprite of Light, I believe. I think she came in Legacy Lost. I actually have a quest clear of her, but considering that she is a mono light resonator and we are majorly using water in this deck, I decided to go against it or whatever, so that's why that one's not in it. But potentially I would maybe sideboard it or something like that, because it is a nice handy spirit to have. So we've got 3 of that. And now going into our lovely super duper spells, we are running 4 copies of Send Back, a pretty simple spell. It's a 1 cost, return target addition, resonator, or regalia to its owner's hand. So pretty simple stuff. I don't have the actual card on me because it's currently in a deck of mine, but we are also running 4 copies of Charlotte's Water Bear Transformation Magic. And if you don't know what that does, you know, it's pretty simple. Thing loses all its abilities, becomes a 4/4 bear until end of turn, quick cast and remnants. We're running 4 of that as well. We are running, I believe, 3 copies of Rain of Light, which is a lovely card. It is 1 water, 1 light, and X. It also is quick cast as well. Target up to X resonators, where obviously X is what you paid for X. Rest those your opponent controls and recover those you control, which is very nice. It's a way to make sure that your opponent is completely tapped out and that you can just go in and hit for the kill or whatever, again, depending on how many times you attack that turn. We have 3 copies of Reunion of Sisters, a lovely little water chant. It is 2 water and 1 void. Choose one. If you control a light J/Resonator and another water J/Resonator, you may choose both. Draw 2 cards or return target Resonator to its owner's hand. So basically, as long as we have at least 2 different sprites, whatever, that have the dual cost or whatever, then we will be able to play this card or whatever for both of its abilities. Next up, we have 4 copies of Millium's Roar, which, although it's better probably in the Millium deck because it's more focused on force rolling or whatever, it is still quite handy for this deck. So it is a 2 cost, it is 1 water, 1 light. You force for 1, put X amount of 100 counters on each of up to 2 Resonators, where X is the result of the roll, so it's an easy way of buffing up some of our stuff on our side of the field, so we're running 4 copies of that. And then, lastly, it's not a spell technically, it's an addition for field. We have Shangri-La, which if you remember Shangri-La all the way back from SKL, it is a 2 cost addition, obviously, 1 water and 1 void. When this card enters your field, you draw a card, which is pretty nice. War Resonators you control gain 100, which is the majority of the deck. I believe Is that, I'm pretty sure that's the entirety of the deck except for Silph, the Envoy of Wind. But we're not really too bothered about Silph anyway. Silph is mainly there for discard, so we don't really care about that. And as long as you have 5 or more cards in your hand, water resonators you control gain another 100/100. So essentially, depending on our hand state, we can buff all our things by 200/200. And you might not think that's not too much, but the extra 200/200 could actually be very actually, I can actually speak English, can actually be very helpful, is what I'm trying to say. My head is still a bit muffled up, whatever, from feeling sick, so my apologies. And lastly, for our stones, we've not got very complicated stones. We have, obviously, 4 copies of the Magic Stone of Light Vapors, because it counts for light and it counts for water. We have Millium's Stone of the Dragonoids. Again, if we're using this, we need to pay the 300 if we want it to come in untapped. But you know what? Considering that we have life gain in this deck, we're not too mindful about that anyway. It does the standard thing. It taps for light and it taps for water. And we're ignoring the dragon counter thing or whatever because obviously Charlotte does not use dragon counters, so we ignore that. And then 2 copies of Best Water Stone, Best Turtle Stone. Look at that foil, it's so pretty. 2 copies of that because mainly we have water for this deck, so that way we have the water that we need for this deck. So there you go, guys. That was my deck profile for this deck profile challenge with uSpotGaming. Again, I'll put the link down below to their video that they did below. Be sure to check them out and subscribe to them because they make all sorts of awesome videos. They're going to be hitting me with a challenge pretty soon as well for deck profile. I'm not quite sure what kind it is yet. They've not sent me the details of it yet, but be sure to be looking out for that. That will probably be coming out fairly soon. And hopefully I'm on the mend now and I'm starting to feel better and videos will be going up as normal. My apologies for any kind of like blip or whatever this week. But yeah, I was fairly sick if you didn't know from yesterday's video, and I just needed a bit of time to rest and recover. So hopefully I am on the mend now and videos will be going up as normal. So until next time, guys, I will see you all later.